Hey guys, I hope this message finds you well. I hope you guys are staying home, staying healthy and safe, and it's gonna pass. And I really hope it hasn't really affected you in a tragic way. And if it has, I send all the positive energy, vibes, and going to you and your families right now. But thank you for continuing to listen to the podcast. And if you want to share it instead of sharing germs, just go ahead and click that button.
It's about growing as a person. Your best is completely unique to you.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is episode 12 of Fuck Perfect. I'm here with the co-founder of Vivo Life, Josh Bolding. Thank you so
for having
much.
me, Jeff.
Oh, absolutely. I'm super honored. Thank you. I'm even wearing my Vivo shirt, which I'm super excited about. So if you don't mind me kind of jumping right into it, people that maybe don't know of you, or maybe people do, can you kind of give us a cherry-picked version of how you got here today? And you can go all the way back to the 5-year-old Josh until how did you get started on veganism, plant-based, and then Vivo Life, and whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I will keep it as succinct as I can. So I start from when I worked in the supplement industry myself. I was a content writer for a number of different supplement brands. I would run their social media accounts. I would write blog articles, nutrition articles, that kind of thing. And the closer I got to these brands and the more I learned about the way that they operated, the more frustrated I found myself becoming of the way that they would use certain ingredients to try and save money, the way that they would make false claims about their products, the way that they'd asked me to spin the copy so it would be worded in a certain way so that you don't draw attention to this ingredient and you focus on this one, and try and almost it felt like I came into the supplement world to help people get healthy, and it felt like I actually ended up doing the opposite, because I became what was basically a salesperson. I wasn't actually trying to promote health. I was just trying to sell these supplements that most of them didn't work. Most of them were formulated based on profit margins rather than how effective they would be. And I got really disillusioned. So this was going back to 2014, 2015. And I really felt within myself that I was either going to leave the industry completely and go and do something different, or I would do something about it and actually, create my own brand and decide to give it my best shot. And fortunately, that's what I did. And it was around that time that I also made my own journey into veganism. It was something I had become really, really passionate about, and that became the driving force behind the brand. And that's what allowed me to, really pour my passion into something bigger than just creating supplements. It actually became a mission. And we decided, myself and a good friend of mine who's now my business partner, decided that we wanted to give this thing a shot. And we went for it. So that was, again, going back to 2015. We launched the first product we launched was our protein powder, which came out in 2016. And from there, what we've really tried to focus on is creating the highest quality, organic, natural, vegan supplements that we possibly can, and also use that company to make a positive change in the world. So to change people's perceptions when it comes to veganism, to doing the right thing for the environment, and to looking after their health. And so that's going back 4 years now when the first product launched. It's been a really exciting journey, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of lessons learned along the way. I had no experience in running a company myself, so I'm still learning every day. But I wouldn't change any of the ups or the downs or the lefts or the rights for the world.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. And there's so many things I wanted to pivot on and comment on what you were talking about. Like when I first got started in just the health and fitness, just kind of getting involved in it just for myself, not to even help anybody. I would either get tricked by the obviously the marketing and the spin about something. Obviously, sugar free is a big one. People got to stay away from now. And so all these little terms, and I would even find oh, hey, there's all these sketchy ingredients, and you start to realize, wow, these ingredients are really bad. I remember the very first time I even came across this was looking at some supplements and reading these in-depth analyses that had lead and arsenic in these supplements. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Why would I do? And that was really the tip of the iceberg, like the rabbit hole for me is like, whoa. And as I investigated more and more and more, I was like, all right, this is insane. And then you would try to find the good brands or products. And then sometimes if you found a good one, eventually once they built a base, they would then cut uh, the quality once their base was established and then try to focus on the profit margins, right? And they would change.
That's a really interesting point that you make, because I that was a real tipping point for me. I don't know if we're talking about the same brand, but I saw a big plant-based brand that I used to use, who I have no doubt, started with great intentions, and they actually had a buyout. And the first thing I noticed is that the hemp protein was swapped for rice protein, and the stevia was swapped for sucralose, and all of these ingredient
Oh
changes
my
that
God.
on the surface you might not notice, but you can just tell it's someone that's just going into that company with the sole objective of saying, right, how can we cut corners where people won't notice, but we're going to save money? And for me, that feels really dishonest. If I'm
Right.
creating a health product, I want it to be first and foremost to help people get healthier. There should be no other objective that's more important than that.
Absolutely. And I know even as I ventured into um, see as I started becoming I even stay plant based. I'm not sure if it's conditioned to me to say plant based now, like I've said it so much. I know when I first started was like in 2012 of like kind of dabbing into going in and out, trying it
Hmm.
for a few workout programs, seeing how I feel. My backstory for me is my I mean, the reason I even created this podcast of happiness and health is seeing my mom my whole life chase happiness. And
Mm,
she was like the grass is always greener type of thing. And then when she would get something, it didn't really sustain her. And so I was really fascinated with happiness and psychology. And I even went into theater because I got to study perspective. I love perspectives.
mm,
And then in 2000, 2009, 2008, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And kind of that launched me into the health part of health, the health and happiness focus.
yeah.
And I started kind of dipping my toes in looking at like, okay, what are the things that we can choose to control? Because we can't control everything in life, but we can control what we put in and on our bodies.
Hmm.
So that led me like down the path of shampoos and deodorants and cleaning stuff. And I was like, oh my god, right? And plastic and just all this stuff. And then I kind of saw veganism and plant based. And at first I would say vegan, and people would kind of go they and I'm like, okay, I just eat fruits and vegetables then, guys. And they're like, oh, okay. Um, and so and I kind of played with it a bit, and I would pass everything I did on to my mom, and she, took a stage 4 breast cancer. She went into remission. She um, she lived for 9 years with it,
Wow.
and a lot of the time we kept circling back to plant based stuff and learning, especially with Dr. Greger and his
Hmm.
stuff on nutrition facts, trying to use that as my tuning fork or my guiding fork, trying to find things for her, and it's just really eye opening. So and it's all connected. And know like people might get opposed to the word vegan, but it's like it's all connected. It's like yeah, you can be plant based for yourself, right? But when you think about how we're connected to the planet and other things, the environment too, and that's why I really love about Vivo Life is it's connect. It's you account for the whole picture,
Mm.
you
Yeah,
know, and
and you mentioned again the V word. It can be off-putting for a lot of people, and I think
mhm,
perceptions are really changing. Um, but I think one stat that often surprises a lot of people is that 60% of our customers are non-vegan, and that for me is a really positive statistic, because it shows that even if people are not ready or willing, or for whatever reason they've decided that they're not going to go completely vegan or plant-based or whatever, they still have access to high quality supplements that are doing great for their health and great for the planet too. So it's not like it has to be an all or nothing thing. We want
exactly,
Vivo to be a way that we can show the benefits of this lifestyle, but we're not going to preach it, and we're not going to, you know, um, ever look down on people for not doing it this way. It's just about making it more accessible, and making it, something that can touch the mainstream.
And that's so beautiful. It ties so well in with Fuck Perfect of progress over perfection. Is
Yep.
that I don't I really I mean, there's probably very few people who went immediately switch to plant based or vegan, 100%.
Hmm.
It could be a gradual thing, especially if people are fighting their own limited beliefs or they're fighting cravings that they think they haven't figured it out yet. Just like
Yep.
myself, like I I actually still ate fish for a while, and then 2.5 years ago, I'm like, I don't think I need this anymore. I think I got it
Yep.
down, and is a nice transition. Um, and so with that, I guess I'll say, what maybe in the business of Vivo Life, what area did you try to were you attempting to focus on perfect or perfection, and then did you switch to progress, and it made all the difference?
It's a very good question. I really like it, and I would say the one area we don't ever release, the one area we don't go in any less than perfect is product development. So
Hmm.
with a product, we've been known, and we have spent more than 5 years formulating a certain product because we don't want to release it until it is completely perfect. Um, and the reason for that is because obviously customers put their trust in our products, and we feel that each product has to be completely researched, has to be at the highest standard, where people know that if they're getting it, it's a Vivo quality. Um, Apart from that, everything else has been nowhere close to perfect. And I'll use the example of launching the business. We did it on a real shoestring budget. Um, if we we did it with no experience too. And if we'd have waited, 2 years, 3 years until we'd have done, the right qualifications, or we'd saved up enough money and to really blow a big marketing budget on it or whatever, we wouldn't be here, because we just said, look, we want to give this our best shot. We know we're never going to be, well, not right now, we're not going to be able to compete with the big brands in terms of marketing and everything like that, but what we can have is a philosophy, and that for us was the thing that made us stand out, and hopefully it still does, uh, because we knew that we wouldn't be able to be matched on that. So that was always my core philosophy behind the brand. But it we we were far from perfect. And if I look at the mistakes we made along the way, it shows that we, on paper, we probably weren't ready, but we wanted to give it our best shot, and we did.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And not to challenge you on that, but I think even the Vivo Life protein product, for example,
Yep.
you've even when you I think released it to where it is now, it still has evolved even better. So if it was perfect, it couldn't evolve. And I think
Good point. Yeah.
you've had additions of removing the plastic scoop and having compostable bags,
Yep.
uh, and I think like even the perfect it's just getting just refined and refined, and even changing flavors. I'm a huge banana and cinnamon lover. I'm like, oh my god, it's heaven. Like I actually ran out one time because I don't know what it was. Maybe I didn't have subscription on auto ship, and I had oatmeal a couple of mornings without it. I'm like, ugh, I don't like oatmeal as much without it. It's
Yep.
really like something really it's so delicious, and that's just like you said, 60% of your customers are non-vegan, and it's great because when you are going down that path of supplements being completely unregulated, when you have a company that does put its product and value and mission above all else, like, okay, I can trust this. And it's almost like I was thinking about this, about what questions I want to ask you, but I was thinking about how it's almost like the gateway where iPod was for Apple.
Right. Okay.
So like if you can get people in with the protein, and then eventually, like, once they're in your ecosystem, you're like, hey, we have these other products. We also support, like, these are the reasons you have you go plant based, and you kind of you add more and more and more vegetables. And where I was at, I'll stop there. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I'm flattered by the analogy. It's really kind of you to say so, and I think you would be right, because I think the protein powder is the sexy, glamorous product that people
Hmm.
see and they think, oh, I take this and I'm going to look like Hercules. And, obviously protein powders do help, but you also have to train, you have to eat the right diet, you have to
Sure.
sleep well, all of these things. But that can be a really good hook. And that gives us the entry point to be able to educate people and give them that insight into the brand. Because if I just sold you a protein powder and we never spoke again, for me, I've done a bad job. That's not what I'm here for. It's
Right.
We want to be able to provide people with the education, with access to the community, events, everything like that, and make them feel part of something. Because people are very disconnected in the world we live in, and I hope that Vivo gives people a sense of
It's
something that they're part of.
it's interesting, absolutely, you say that, and I feel like we're actually the most connected we've ever been. At the same time,
Hmm.
we don't have the weight of connection. Like,
Yeah.
we're so interconnected. Even like the ability that I can connect to you is great, but then
Hmm.
do I value that connection? So I think we have always like little nuance, like liked, and social media has these little less than even acquaintance level connections. Like, we're so connected, but we're
Yeah.
not doing anything with them. Like, the people can. That's why there's sort of like this like angry mob of the internet. Like,
Mm.
they don't feel like they're the same. They have a username. They don't have like, they're not going to stay in with their face to face stuff, right? They're not going to really
Agreed.
do that. Um, yeah, and it's really interesting too when you have like, I consume your like the newsletters you have, and I loved.
Thank you.
I think there was I have a favorite one when there was a thing about sweet potatoes where everyone's like, "Oh my God, sweet potatoes are going." Like, there's I forgot what the chemical was when you cook potatoes, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
and then and I just love that whole email string, like the whole thing that you wrote, and it's like, yeah, your people's biggest hurdle with veganism, even though it's so annoying, is like protein, 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 protein. So it's like it's the perfect gateway product for I think this lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and again, so one thing I wanted to, and it ties in so nicely with your podcast and the whole message that you speak about. The aim with that newsletter that I wrote was to say, basically, there was this study that had come out, and it had found that there was a compound in potatoes that if you roast the potatoes, that this compound can be activated, and this compound can cause issues in mice that were studied when they consumed, sorry about the background noise, that could cause issues in mice when they consume really really high levels of this compound. So the theory was that if you boiled your potatoes rather than roasted them, you would be 0. X% healthier. Um,
Yeah,
and the whole message behind that message was that if that's what you're focusing on, you're never going to get anywhere because if you're so absorbed in the minutiae of details when it comes to anything, whether it's nutrition, your business, your relationships, whatever,
sure.
you will not make any progress. And it's about being able to look at the, and we can use a healthy diet as an example. Doing the things that work, eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and herbs and spices, exercising, sleeping well, meditating, whatever it looks like for you, but also enjoying life. And if you're sitting there and you're eating boiled potatoes, which you don't actually enjoy, then I can guarantee you that that's going to be much less healthy for you than eating, potatoes that have been roasted, which you're really going to be able to enjoy and experience with friends and family, and with a smile on your face and gratitude, and all of those things contribute to health too. We can't just isolate certain compounds and say that this is the thing, this is the cure, and this is the thing that's going to make you well, because it doesn't really work like that.
Absolutely, and it's almost like analysis paralysis, where people
Yes.
analyze too much and then they get
Yep.
they get caught up in the details, and it's like the idea where people will say, well, why would you buy organic versus not organic? It's the same nutrient. Like, well, yeah, there's still stuff in it, but it's still
Mm.
better. It's still
Yep.
there's still a huge improvement.
Hmm.
Um, and even the people that I coach, like, so my whole thing is I shoot myself in the foot a lot. It's like, I because of my mom, I don't really focus on people that want to lose 10 pounds. I just don't. I'm
Mm.
like, okay,
Hmm.
how can I help you with the longevity? How can I help you with health and happiness? And if I can't help you find a way to sustain it for a long period of time, that's my goal, my mission is that in the last 5 years of doing this, I have a I have a smaller amount of people I've helped, but the depth of which I've helped them, uh, I feel like I can show them how to find the right answer as opposed to tell them what to think. And
Yep.
I meet them where they're at. Like, what makes them happy? I help them with their mindset, their stress levels, meditation, like this leverage. I say, what food do you want to eat in your diet? What do you really love? Okay, let's keep it there. Let's just add these things, and I
Hmm.
start kind of transit. I don't force people down a plant-based diet, but I say, hey, everyone agrees that we need more vegetables, no, regardless what diet we're at, right? So I recommend Vivo. I recommend people that just add more vegetables, more legumes. Usually is a
Yep.
I usually try to say, okay, that's upper fiber, and that usually
Hmm.
covers a good category. And so I kind of help them get to this stabilized kind of lifestyle. They think, oh, I'm actually happy. I can sustain this. I'm not like like in deprivation and so stressful and hate it, and I can't have roasted potatoes like
Yeah.
and so and then in the last 5 years, I haven't had a single person revert back to their starting weight. Uh,
Amazing.
I don't coach them after 3 months. Like I just stop. I'm like,
Cool. Okay.
you can't sign up anymore. Like
Yeah.
you're done. um,
And that's a I really admire that, because if you, it's almost like, obviously we're vegan so we don't go fishing, but it's the teaching a man to fish versus giving him
yeah,
fish.
exactly. It's
If
exactly
you're
what
if
it
you
is.
can't if you can't help people build healthy habits that they can sustain, if you're having to handhold someone after 3 months throughout the process, then it's probably something that's not right. You really want to equip people with the tools and the knowledge to be able to do this themselves, and do it better than they did when they had a
Yes,
coach anyway. That would be the
yes,
goal.
yes, yes. If I'm gonna create a massive lasting change in people, I can't hand hold the same people. It doesn't make sense. And granted, I know the fitness industry, health industry, they thrive on the new product being the answer, and it rarely is. Unfortunately it's the mindset which people have. They're just not consistent with it. But once
Yep.
we figure out like, hey, this is how you can sustain it, they're like, oh wow, this is how I sustain it. I'm like, yeah, just focus on your happiness and your stress level. Keep making progress. Things are going to come up. Life's going to happen, but let's keep moving forward. And that's where like
Sure.
where I struggled. I was kind of brought in a type of business where it's like a recruiting business basically, and it's like you have to do it this way. I can only coach you if you do it my way. If you sign up with this product, if you do this, and I was like, there's so many rules upon how I help people that I feel like I can't actually help people because I'm making them dependent on me,
Yep.
and that doesn't seem like I'm helping anybody,
Hmm.
right? And so I kind of like separated myself from that. Huge loss of money, but now I'm just like, but I'm doing something I really love. And after doing this podcast, I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. Like the response
Mm.
I'm getting is incredible. So yeah, thanks for even being on it. And I have a question. What's next for Vivo Life? Uh, what's next?
So that is a good question. There obviously a big transition we have made over the past, I would say, 18 months, is being a small brand that no one had really heard of, fighting hard for people to hear about our products and hear about our mission, to being a bigger brand that people are now more aware of. And we're managing that transition. And one thing we really want to be able to do is become this one of the leading faces in sustainability, in ethical living, whether that refers to being kind to the environment, or being kind to your health and following a plant-based diet. We really want to move into the space of being a teacher brand. So that means, offering more education, more value, more content that's really, really going to help people. So that's always a real focus of mine, is delivering value, and how can we step up and keep
Right.
standing out. We launched the compostable packaging last year, which has been a huge success for us. And this year I've got, there's a few campaigns that we're going to be doing, which I think is really going to help us, even reach new heights, and be the brand that everyone's talking about when it comes to, okay, if you want to run an ethical, sustainable company, then this is the gold standard, and this is where you go to. And I also want to show people that as businesses get bigger, they don't have to lose that heart that made them who
Hmm.
they are. And that's really important for me, because I have always been the person that never trusted big companies, and I
Right.
would I would be I would be the guy that, I'd try and I'd I'd walk an extra half an hour to go to the local shop where I could buy, freshly, grown organic fruits and vegetables compared to like the big supermarket because I want to support the small man. And it becomes quite ironic as my business grows, and now I have what is on paper a medium to large business, and I now want to reframe what people think about big businesses and to show that they can really operate at the highest level of ethics and transparency and integrity. So that's a challenge that I'm facing. I'm really, really enjoying it, and
Hmm.
I'm hoping I can show people that big business doesn't have to mean bad people and people just sitting there counting their profits.
Absolutely, and thanks for saying that. I know I went to a conference a few years ago to a mentor of mine, a huge mentor, pay like 10 grand to go to this conference in this small room of like a breakout session of how to grow businesses. And one of the things I stood up from my table and I stood up and said, okay, one of the things that I value is adding value without expectations,
Mm,
because I feel like um, with it, when you give and you have an expectation, it's a transaction. You're not giving, and when you give, you just let it go, right?
yep.
And I'll never forget this. And it's probably a good thing, even though I was mad about it. It motivated me to prove him wrong. My mentor says, and I can't say his name, but the mentor says that's a terrible business model.
Huh.
I'm like, interesting. I wasn't thinking that you would say that because I want to help people. That's my main goal. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, it's not just about the dollar, right?
Yep.
If you start focusing on the dollar, it's a slippery slope of when do you stop,
Yep. Yeah,
right?
for sure,
Um,
for sure. And I believe that money is just the energetic flow of the world that we live in.
mhm,
And I believe that if you operate in the right way, you do what you're passionate about, and you focus on giving people value. Ultimately, you're putting out the right energy, and I think you will in turn receive as a benefit from it. Now, the paradox is you do not give in order to receive because that defeats the object of giving. But
mhm,
I believe that if you go in there open heartedly with the intention to give to others and to serve others, then it's inevitable that money, happiness, success, abundance, all of these things will come to you because it's again it's just the way that energy works. You give and you receive. So
right,
the more I notice in my life, the more money I spend in terms of giving to charity, helping out people I love, like these kind of things, and I do that selflessly, more money will come back to me as a result. So it's the most beautiful cycle that when you realize it, you realize, okay, you don't have to focus on trying to wheel and deal and cut corners and count your profits because it will come to you if you put the right intention out and do the right thing first. Or I might sound crazy, but certainly the what I've learned over the past few years. Coming from a place where when we built the business, I did it on savings, a lifetime of savings, and I've never been someone that has has grown up with a lot of resources, and to be able to you know release that attachment that I had where I was like, what if this doesn't work, and what if I fail and I lose everything, and I went in it with, okay, I'm here because I want to make a difference, and money, it didn't become, it wasn't on my radar at the time.
right.
Right. And it still isn't. It's not the motivating factor behind our decisions when it comes to marketing or product creation or anything like that, because we know that if you do it right, then that part will come.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for being on the podcast. It's a real pleasure, and I'm really honored to talk with you.
Likewise, man, I've had a really good time. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.